The girl jolted awake only to find herself lying on an unfamiliar bed. Her clothes were in complete disarray. The first thing she saw was a face, handsome to the point of being almost demonic. Yet at this moment, it filled her with overwhelming fear. Without thinking, she drew a pistol from her thigh. The barrel locked steadily on the man's head. To her shock, his eyes snapped open, a sly, ghostly smile flickering in their depths. He spoke slowly, his voice laced with mockery. "Miss Spy, you're finally awake." Rage and terror twisted together in her chest. Her finger pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! The sharp crack tore through the silence. The bullet streaked out like a shooting star. Just as the girl was certain the man would die, a shocking scene unfolded. Strange light flared around his body, revealing his true, mysterious form. His gaze brimmed with amusement, as though watching an ant struggle in vain. He sneered, "Stop wasting your effort, human." Before his words even faded, his hand shot out, clamping tightly around her head. He yanked her face close to his, lips curling into a cruel grin as he mocked, "You can't hurt me in the slightest." From that day forward, the girl was mercilessly imprisoned by this demon. A few days earlier, she had just returned from a mission. The moment she stepped through her door, a mysterious letter was waiting. One glance at the coded writing was enough. She instantly recognized it as the private cipher she shared with her brother. But there was one chilling truth. Her brother had long been dead. So where had this letter come from? In the letter, her brother instructed her to travel to the City of Desire, to the founding Gust family, and find an ancient scroll bearing his signature. He hinted that if all went well, they would reunite soon. With her heart full of doubts and longing for him, the girl made her way to the Gust family's weekend banquet. She was convinced her brother's death was tied inextricably to this mysterious clan. But if he was truly gone, how could this letter exist? Countless questions gnawed at her mind. To uncover the truth, she disguised herself as a servant and slipped carefully into the gathering. The moment she stepped into the hall, it was as if she had entered a dream woven of decadence and excess. The legends were true. People from every trade reveled in the splendor and frenzy of the night. Knowing time was short, she resolved to search the rooms one by one. She eased open the first door, where mountains of gold and silver glittered, almost swallowing her whole. She drew a steadying breath and pushed open the second. Behind it floated a feast suspended in midair, lavish and surreal. But when she opened the third door, the sight froze her blood, a scene of taboo and corruption beyond words. Her face went pale as she slammed the door shut in terror. Just then, faint voices drifted from a room at the end of the corridor. Perhaps she could gather useful intel. Summoning her courage, the girl crept closer, pressing her ear to the door. Inside, a slick, greasy-faced man groveled with flattery, begging the figure before him to eliminate his political rival. But the next instant he was slammed hard against the table. A chilling male voice cut through the air. "The price of a deal is mine to decide, Congressman. What you have left, be it lifespan or mental strength, isn't worthy of this table." The girl's heart jolted as she realized she was witnessing a transaction steeped in absolute darkness. To achieve his goal, the congressman had gone mad enough to offer his own child's heart as payment. The man he pleaded with only let out a cold laugh, his tone dripping with disdain, utterly repulsive. The congressman, humiliated by the failed deal, roared in fury, "You dare refuse my offer? I came prepared." He snarled and ordered his men to open fire on the man. Yet the man remained calm, raising his hand with a casual snap of his fingers. In an instant, time itself seemed to freeze. Every bullet twisted midair, seized by a mysterious force and shot back at its origin. The girl stood frozen, her mind utterly blank with shock. The man suddenly turned, his piercing gaze slicing through the air like twin blades of ice. Her heart nearly leapt from her throat. She clamped a hand over her mouth and crouched low, barely daring to breathe. But an unseen force crept toward her. To her horror, her limbs stopped obeying, bound tight by some invisible power. Behind her, footsteps drew closer, each one pounding against her chest like a drumbeat of doom. "Looks like a little mouse has slipped inside," the man's voice echoed through the silent corridor, carrying the whisper of death itself. Just when the girl sank into despair, certain her mission had failed and her life was over, a warm hand suddenly closed around hers. Her entire body froze, her heartbeat racing out of control. Looking up, she saw her dead brother standing right before her, alive. The shock hit her like lightning. She couldn't believe he was still alive. Tears streamed down her face as she ran toward him, crying, "Brother, don't leave me." But the moment she reached him, his figure vanished. At that instant, she stumbled upon a hidden underground chamber. Inside, shelves were stacked with the ancient scrolls her brother had written about in the letter. Curiosity drove her forward, and as soon as she touched one of the scrolls, her brother appeared again. She clung to him tightly, overwhelmed. Terrified it was nothing more than a fleeting dream, she whispered over and over, "Brother, it's really you." Yet the man in her arms gave a cruel laugh. "Miss, such passion for a first meeting." Her chest tightened in dread before she could even react. The brother, in her embrace, had already warped back into the form of that demon. Only then did she realize, everything earlier had been nothing more than the man's illusion. Terror flooded her face as she struggled desperately to break free from his grip. But his arm only clamped tighter around her waist. Heat brushed against her skin as his deep voice rumbled at her ear. "So eager to steal my demon contract?" The truth struck her. This creature was no human. A chill raced down her spine, her body trembling uncontrollably. She stammered out, "I got lost. I wandered in by mistake. I'll leave right away." She tried to bluff her way out and escape, but the demon shoved her back into a corner. Slowly, he leaned closer, nostrils flaring as though savoring a peculiar scent. "That smell. I noticed it the moment you started eavesdropping at the door." Confused, the girl asked, "What smell?" The demon sneered with disdain. "Humans are always bound by desire, reeking of its filth. That greedy, hypocritical stench makes me sick." Wrapped in polished facades, they come to me, eager to trade their lusts and ambitions. By now, the girl fully understood. The so-called city of desire, where any wish could be granted, was nothing more than a web of packs with demons. The demon sensed something faint yet unusual in her scent. His lips curved into a wicked smile as he murmured, "Sign a contract with me and I'll grant your wish." Tempting as it was, the girl knew all too well the peril such a deal carried. So she chose to gamble, whipping a dagger from behind her back and thrusting it at him. But at the critical moment, the demon merely flicked his fingers. The dagger wrenched itself free, flying from her grasp. Under his control, it slashed across her arm instead. Yet he had underestimated her cunning. The instant the blade was flung aside, a hidden silver needle sprang out, piercing into the demon's palm, sending a wave of numbness through him. The needle was clearly coated with a potent anesthetic. The girl smirked. "That dose is strong enough to bring down a bear." With that, the girl seized her chance and dove into the river. But the very next second, a powerful hand clamped tightly around her slender ankle. The demon's unervingly handsome face drew closer as he sneered, "Did you really think you could escape?" He plunged into the water after her, locking her arms in his iron grip. Her breath was cut off, terror of death washing over her once more. "Am I really going to die in the hands of this demon?" At that moment, a strange light burst forth. The scroll vanished into thin air beneath the water. The demon, too, was struck by an unbearable suffocation. In a panic, he hauled the girl up toward the surface. He had never imagined that he, of all beings, could drown. Instinctively, he checked her breath. She was still alive and the scroll remained intact. A shocking thought blazed through his mind. My demon contract. It's linked to this girl's very life. An hour earlier, the man had set out a lavish feast just for her. "Miss Spy, please enjoy that. You'll need to keep your strength up." The girl was puzzled. Why hadn't the demon killed her but instead kept her locked away? What kind of deal had her brother struck with this creature? She knew the truth must be uncovered and escape was now urgent. Meanwhile, Bolter arrived to report on the girl's condition. Hearing she hadn't touched the carefully prepared food, the demon immediately ordered him to dig into every detail of her life, from birth to the present, especially her tastes and preferences. Bolter, who had served him for centuries, had never seen his master so invested in anyone, and doubt began to stir in his mind. The demon only chuckled, dismissing it as mere entertainment. Unconvinced, Bolter produced his treasured book, 100 Reasons to Stay Away from Humans, warning that getting too close could trigger dangerous symptoms like a racing heart, or even finding them amusing. The demon shot him an exasperated glare, scolding him for wasting time on such nonsense as the second in command. Bolter defended himself, saying the records showed most demons who grew too close to humans ended up dead or vanished. The demon scoffed at the warning and burned the book to ashes. "I've ruled over human desire for 1,000 years. Crushing them is as easy as stamping out an ant." Just then, a faint noise came from the ceiling. Like a mouse, the girl crept silently above their heads. Unfortunately, she caught every word of the demon's bold claim. Her chest tightened and even her breathing grew cautious. But her stomach betrayed her, growling loudly. To avoid detection, she hurriedly changed her path. The demon's lips curled into a faint smile, his gaze laced with undeniable malice. Bolter, however, cut in mercilessly. "Damon, you brought this human back because you've taken a liking to her, didn't you?" The demon's thoughts were laid bare and his once steady eyes began to flicker. He covered his unease with booming laughter. "Please, that's the worst joke I've ever heard." Then, with a casual flick, he tossed out a contract and revealed the truth. "This woman's blood touched my demon contract. Now it's bound to her life itself." Bolter's eyes widened. "If she dies, does that mean the contract will be destroyed?" The demon did not deny it, admitting coldly that if the price of the pact could not be reclaimed, his own power would be severely weakened. He ordered that this matter remain absolutely secret. Bolter immediately accepted the command and began seeking a solution. Meanwhile, the girl had crawled back onto the ceiling above them. From there, she overheard everything. The demon couldn't let this human escape, yet he couldn't consume her soul just yet. Her whole body shook with terror, so that's why the feast was so lavish. "He wants to fatten me up before eating me." The demon's voice rang out coldly. "No matter what, this nuisance must be dealt with." Images flashed through her mind, herself roasted, sprinkled with scallions and cumin. Taking advantage of the empty moment, she slipped into the ventilation shaft and climbed onto the chandelier. But the demon soon returned to the room. His sharpened sense of smell made him pause, as though detecting something unusual. The girl dared not even breathe. And then, her stomach betrayed her again, rumbling loudly. With a casual flick of his finger, the demon stirred the air. The girl slipped from the chandelier with a loud crash. At the last possible second, she hooked her foot on the edge. But she was already exposed in full view of the demon. His eyes locked on her, unblinking. His tone dripped with mockery. "Miss Spy, enjoying yourself on the ceiling?" He suspected she had overheard their earlier conversation. Panicked, the girl stammered, "The food didn't suit me. I just came out to find something else to eat." His lips curled into a sneer, his expression screaming, "Yeah, right." Smirking, he leaned closer to her face. "There are breadcrumbs on the chandelier." The girl trembled in fear. She turned her head instinctively, a thought searing through her mind. "He's going to eat me." But her clothes snagged hard on the crystal ornaments of the chandelier. With a ripping sound, she plummeted straight down. In that instant, only one thought blazed through the demon's mind. He could not let her get hurt. With a flick of his fingers, a surge of arcane force caught her safely in midair. Once safely on the ground, the girl frantically tried to cover the wound on her back. But the demon yanked her hand away without a word. What he saw beneath made his heart jolt. Branded into her skin was a tattoo, 316. From the terror in her eyes, it was clear this mark had been seared onto her during a moment of utter despair. And a human's most fragile moment was always the perfect time to forge a contract. The demon's voice dropped low, coaxing, "You risked everything to break into my domain. There must be a reason you cannot speak aloud. Let me guess, revenge, greed, or that pitiful thing called love?" His words cut through her like knives, striking straight at her buried wounds. Tears welled up, blurring her vision. Yet to her shock, the first to shed tears was the cold-blooded demon himself. A strange warmth slid down his cheek. He touched it in disbelief, muttering under his breath, "Tears? I'm actually crying. How is this possible?" While the demon was still lost in doubt, the girl seized the chance and bolted. She knew his perception was terrifyingly sharp. Her true purpose here could never be exposed. To protect the brother who might still be alive, she could not allow herself to be captured again. She ran with everything she had, until at last the faint light of an exit came into view. Suddenly, thud, she slammed into what felt like a wall of flesh. Groaning, she clutched her head and looked up. Standing before her were two ragged-looking boys. He guessed they must also be humans imprisoned by the demon. Without a second thought, she grabbed one by the hand, shouting, "Run! The demon will be here any second." But the two didn't move an inch. One boy's expression twisted into a cold sneer. "So this is the boss's prey. If we take down the human who slipped from his grasp, our failed mission just might be wiped clean." In that instant, the girl realized the two boys were in league with the demon. She spun on her heel to flee again, but the brothers pulled out gleaming gold coins. The demon arrived, trying to intervene, but he was a step too late. The coins detonated with explosive magic. The girl was struck down, collapsing into unconsciousness. At the same time, the demon's power began to ebb away. In the blink of an eye, he shrank into the form of a small, helpless cub. The foolish brothers gawked, dumbstruck at the sight of their once mighty boss turned into a chubby little infant. After a long pause, one stammered, "Oh, what's going on? Is that really the boss?" The demon tried to summon his magic, but it was gone. All that remained was the chilling aura unique to demons. Just then, Bolter rushed onto the scene. Without a word, he began healing the girl who hovered on the brink of death. As the girl's condition slowly stabilized, the demon also returned to his tall, strikingly handsome form. The foolish brothers exchanged uneasy glances before asking, "Boss, what's your relationship with this girl?" Bolter answered coldly with just 2 words, "Weakness." Though her wounds had eased, the girl's fever raged on, leaving her unconscious. Bolter admitted she needed proper care. He carried her back to the bedroom. While the brothers apologized for their reckless actions, the thermometer read a scorching 39.6 degrees Celsius. The demon stared blankly at the device in his hand. "Don't tell me I'm the one who has to take care of her?" His subordinates silently nodded before slipping out the door. Left with no choice, the demon stayed behind, taking on the responsibility of caring for a human girl. With his magic still weakened, tasks he once completed with a mere snap of his fingers now had to be done by hand. He found himself pouring tea and helping her drink, even wiping the sweat from her fevered brow. Suddenly, the girl clutched the demon's hand tightly, murmuring in her sleep, "Don't go." His eyes narrowed, suspicion flashing across them. Who is she mistaking me for now? Almost without thinking, he brushed her forehead with his hand, scoffing inwardly, "Am I really stuck playing house with her?" In her dream, the figure of her brother appeared. In the vastness of the city, she had no idea where he was. That tiny home they once shared had been the most precious part of her life. Now, the longing for him burst forth again within her dream. Her grip on the demon's hand unconsciously tightened. The demon's heart gave a sudden jolt, as if some invisible thread bound his emotions to hers. Caught in that strange connection, he found himself leaning closer, only to hear her whisper, "Shinju wants your Provençal stew." Only then did he learn her name, Shinju. Though he had no idea what Provençal stew even was. For her sake, he ordered the foolish brothers to rouse the best chef in the dead of night to prepare it. At 4 in the morning, the demon drifted into slumber, her hand still clasped firmly in his. The next morning, the girl's eyes fluttered open, only to realize she was holding someone's hand. And to her shock, the hand belonged to none other than the demon himself. The girl's first instinct was to yank her hand away. But her sudden movement jolted the demon awake. Even through his drowsy eyes, a dangerous gleam flickered. Terror drained the color from her face, her body trembling uncontrollably. The demon's lips curled into a chilling smile. "My power has returned." At once, the girl activated her highest defense without hesitation. Suddenly, bang! The door burst open and the foolish brothers stumbled in, lugging a massive pot. "Boss, the Provençal stew you wanted." We stormed the city's top chef's house, dragged him out of bed and made him cook it with his own hands. The girl froze the moment she heard that familiar name. Provençal stew. A homely dish of summer vegetables, yet in the film Ratatouille, it was the dish of triumph. And yet, the demon had dismissed it with disdain as nothing more than leftover slop. He reluctantly sampled a bite and shrugged, claiming he knew the ingredients and flavors well enough to conjure them with magic at any time. His odd behavior only deepened the girl's suspicion. How did he even think to prepare this dish? Had she been exposed? But with the food before her, she forced herself to set aside her guard for the moment. She lifted the plate and began to eat. Suddenly, a memory of the demon's conversation with his men flashed through her mind. A chill ran down her spine. She summoned her courage and asked, "Are you trying to fatten my desires so you can eat me?" The demon's lips tilted into a faint smile. "Clever, do you really think I'm using you as an experiment?" he replied with amused coolness. Then he reached out and gently wiped sauce from the corner of her mouth, an act tender and yet laden with danger. He leaned in slowly and pushed her down, his voice thick with mockery and amusement. "A prey is only fun when teased. Let's see how richly your human desires can be nurtured under my hand." When your soul becomes delicious enough, I will savor it, little by little. The girl's heart sank into chaos. So it was true. The demon's true aim was her very soul. Just then, a knock shattered the silence. "Miss, have you rested well?" Instinctively, the girl pulled away from the demon. Bolter entered, carrying an array of dresses, shoes, perfumes, and cosmetics, presenting them politely for her to choose from. It was the first time she had ever seen such luxury. Tempting as it was, she did not give in so easily. For now, she could not escape this mansion. But at least she had some freedom to move about. While wandering the halls, she accidentally stumbled upon the demon in a private discussion with his men. Gathering her courage, she crept closer to eavesdrop. She overheard Bolter reporting. There was a traitor in the family holding a classified list, one that contained the names of powerful elites deeply bound to them. At next week's high society ball, he intends to trade it with Yu, a senior member of the Ober family. Bolter handed over a photo. "This is Yu." The girl's heart jolted the moment she saw the photo. In an instant, she recognized Yu. He had once been her brother's informant. She overheard the demon order Bolter, "You must intercept that list. We cannot allow the family's power to be compromised." A spark of inspiration struck her. This might be her chance to escape. She leapt out from the bushes. With a bright smile, she seized Bolter's hand. "Mr. Bolter, you'll need a partner at the ball that I can help." The demon caught sight of her radiant expression, and jealousy surged within him that she's never smiled at me like that. Bolter looked both flattered and startled. The girl pitched herself eagerly. "I'm skilled in disguise that I can help draw out the one you're looking for." Bolter fell silent, weighing the offer carefully. Just as the two were about to strike a deal, the demon cut in. "Good idea." The same demon who had earlier refused to attend the ball now declared otherwise. He strode toward the girl and said smoothly, "You'll be my partner." A flicker of delight rose in the girl's chest. So he truly wouldn't let his prey slip away. But the triumph lasted only seconds before the demon's penetrating gaze froze her in place. "You're going to that ball with another purpose, aren't you?" The girl lowered her gaze in a hurry, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm locked up here every day, forced to live in fear of a demon who could devour me at any moment. How could demons ever understand such terror?" She gambled that presenting herself as nothing more than food might win her a shred of pity. She also gambled that the demon cared enough about her state of mind, whether it might affect his power. And sure enough, the demon was moved, if only for a moment. He softened ever so slightly, though his voice remained cold as he commanded, "Enough, dry your tears to be ready to act as my partner." A faint smile tugged at the girl's lips. She thought she had finally seized the upper hand. But she had no idea she was already tangled in the demon's carefully laid snare. The demon declared that this mission must succeed at all costs. The traitor had to be exposed, and the secret list could not be allowed to fall into the hands of the Ober family. Otherwise, the entire balance of power in the City of Desire would be rewritten. His voice sank lower. "The Ober leader is a sly fox. Outwardly, he keeps up the appearance of cooperation with us, but behind the scenes he never stops scheming. At the ball, we must capture both the traitor and his contact, Yu, without alerting them." The girl clenched her fists in secret. Her true goal was to obtain news of her brother from Yu. For that, she had no choice but to play the role of the demon's partner. And so, she submitted to the demon's dance training. She thought she still had control of the situation, until the demon suddenly broke the rules. "Don't even think about playing tricks. Let me share a secret." As he spoke, he caressed her hand. "Through touch, I can read exactly what you're thinking, Miss Shinju." He pronounced her code name slowly, word by word. The girl's pupils quaked in shock. How could he possibly know? So the girl feigned ignorance, hoping to bluff her way out. "Sorry, were you talking to me? I don't think that name sounds all that special." But then warm breath brushed her ear as the demon's teasing voice whispered again, "Provençal stew." The girl shoved him away in shock. Her face went pale with disbelief. Could the demon really read minds just by touch? What she didn't realize was that he was a cunning trickster. His so-called mind reading came only from overhearing her sleep talk. He had already seen through her thoughts and merely wanted to toy with her. A sly smile tugged at his lips as his gaze lingered hungrily on Jinju. Believing the demon could read her mind, Jinju panicked, grabbed a cup of black coffee and downed it in one gulp to calm herself. The demon, unimpressed, muttered with disdain, "Coffee is nothing but a tool to enslave humans at work." With that he took a sip. The bitterness hit his throat so hard he spat it out on the spot. As I thought, only beasts would drink this stuff. Later, the two moved to a corner of the garden to practice dancing. The demon reminded her, "At the ball, you'll call me Damon." Shinju muttered inwardly that it was far too familiar and protested, "I'd rather address you as Mr. Diamond." The demon leaned in closer, his tone laced with threat. "At the ball, partners must look intimate." Helpless, Shinju forced out the two cursed syllables through clenched teeth. "Damon." Snap! The demon's fingers cracked and music filled the air. He swept her hand into his and led her into a dance. But Shinju, still wary of his so-called mind-reading, instinctively avoided the hand reaching for her waist. The demon noticed her stiffness and teased, "Miss Shinju, for a spy so agile, you're awfully rigid on the dance floor." Shinju shot him an exasperated glare. "Thanks to you." The demon let out a low, meaningful chuckle. Suddenly, he pulled Shinju's slender waist into his grasp. As the music flowed, she had no choice but to follow his lead. "Now this is the proper form," he teased in a hushed tone. "Damn bastard, he's reading my thoughts again," she cursed inwardly. "Use your brain, think of something else. Fast." In a flash, her mind filled with math equations, a desperate attempt to throw him off. The demon's lips curved into a sly smile. For the first time, he found deceiving a human this entertaining. Seizing her distraction, he yanked her hand back into his. But her steps were hopelessly out of sync. Not far away, the foolish brothers munched on snacks, watching. One muttered, "Is this supposed to be dancing or a tug-of-war?" The other added, "They're completely out of rhythm." Suddenly, the demon released Shinju's hand. A glint of coldness flickered in his eyes. "Miss Shinju, if you keep this up, you'll compromise our mission." Panic surged through her, but for her brother's sake she bit the bullet. "Let's try again," she pleaded. The demon sighed in resignation. "I'll keep my hand hovering for now, that should put you at ease." She hadn't expected him to show such consideration, and for a moment her guard loosened. Shinju placed her hand back in his. This time their movements aligned with surprising harmony. Step by step the dance grew more fluid. Off to the side, the foolish brothers stared wide-eyed. "Man, that girl dances so light on her feet." For the first time, a trace of unexpected tenderness appeared on the demon's face. Bolter witnessed it all, his mind filled with confusion and shock. What kind of power does this human girl hold, to shake even my master's heart? Meanwhile, Shinju was secretly planning her escape. Her eyes fell on the batteries nearby, calculating silently. The powder inside these might come in handy. Suddenly, a knock rang out. Bolter entered with a practiced politeness. "A professional team will arrive shortly to fit your ball gown. Please be ready." Shinju replied courteously, "Thank you for bringing my black coffee every day, that I'll make sure I'm the perfect dance partner." "Miss Shinju, let me warn you, you're nothing more than Damon's toy to pass the time. And if you notice him treating you with special care, that's when it becomes truly dangerous." Shinju was completely lost. "What do you mean?" she asked. Bolter let out a cold chuckle, leaning closer, his voice laced with ice. "For 1,000 years humans have been foolish, but now and then a gifted one appears. If Damon takes a liking to their talent, he'll show them a trace of favoritism. They grow smug, convinced they're the rare exception who can control a demon, slowly drowning in the thrill. But that arrogance and obsession always end in a brutal death. And when their mangled bodies lie before him, Damon only sighs and says, 'What a pity.' Then he erases every trace they ever existed. That's the true end of a demon's special attention. A fleeting illusion for you in exchange for eternal suffering." Shinju's face showed no surprise. Her voice was firm and sharp. "Relax. The only thought I have about your boss is wanting him far away from me." For her, the greatest taboo as a spy was drawing unnecessary attention. Bolter gave a curt nod. "That's for the best. History repeats itself. You will never be the exception. Take it as my warning." Soon it was time to choose a gown, and the Goofy brothers eagerly crowded in. "This gold dress will make you the brightest star in the room." Or go mature. White silk clashing with crimson, the very essence of romance and boldness. How about a little black dress with lace? Perfect for a sweet yet sly vibe. Or this pale blue lace gown with fur. You'd look like a fairy from a storybook. Watching the brothers treat her like a living dress-up doll, Bolter finally lost patience and kicked them out on the spot. Shinju didn't trust their taste either and was about to flip through the fashion magazine herself. but Bolter suddenly snatched it out of her hands. For a ball of this caliber, you need a gown that meets proper etiquette. Try these. Yet the styles he picked made Jinju's heart skip a beat. Every single one of them was backless. Did he have some sort of obsession with backs? Staring at the gowns that could expose her identity, Jinju hesitated, lips pressed tight. Just then, a familiar voice sounded from behind. If you can't decide, let me take a look. It was Damon. He flipped open the magazine at random, skimmed a few pages and tapped a dress with his finger. How about this one? He asked lightly. Jinju's eyes suddenly brightened. It was a gown that would perfectly conceal the scars and the tattoo on her back. Trend or classic doesn't matter. What matters is what suits you, Damon said, his tone carrying an unfamiliar tenderness. Jinju's heart leapt. He actually remembered the exact location of the scars and the tattoo on my back. She clamped a hand to her chest, warning herself over and over. This isn't joy. No, it's shock and fear. This is the endgame of a demon's special attention. A brief illusion for you, eternal torment in return. That attentiveness, was it genuine care for me or masterful manipulation? Her heartbeat spiked. This was a level 1 alarm. On the night of the grand ball, Damon entered the venue with Jinju by his side. The moment he presented the invitation, whispers rippled through the crowd. His identity as the founder of the City of Desire was no longer a secret. Yet for the sake of his plan tonight, he chose to keep quiet. Jinju glanced at him, her mind racing. So few people know this man is actually the head of the Gust family. Even fewer know he's a demon. Does he have a pattern when choosing his trade partners? If I can uncover it, maybe I'll find the truth behind my brother's mission. Carefully, she uttered his name, burning hot on her tongue. Damon. She wanted to know whether he was selective with his deals. The question seemed to spark his interest. He let out a soft chuckle, took her hand, and pressed a light kiss upon it. Miss Jinju, if you wish to make a deal with me, I'm always available. The playful curve of his lips sent a jolt through her chest. She snatched her hand back, forcing herself to calm down, terrified that he might read her mind again. As the orchestra began to play, the two of them stepped into the center of the dance floor, instantly drawing every eye in the room. Who's that handsome man? Never seen him before. Some noble from an old money family. And that woman beside him, she's gorgeous. Which family does she belong to? Jinju's gaze followed Damon involuntarily, her heart pounding like thunder. But she kept whispering to herself, it's just fear, not fascination. Just the panic of being seen through. Don't think about it, she warned herself again and again, that he can read your mind. In a daze, Damon suddenly leaned his head against her shoulder. His voice sounded strained, too much stench of human desire in the air. It's making me sick. Jinju panicked, terrified he might actually throw up on her. As the music came to an end, Damon grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the hallway. Without warning, he shoved her against the wall and began greedily inhaling the scent from her body. A chill ran up Jinju's spine. She tried to break free, but his grip only tightened. His breath burned against her pale neck, wild, hungry, like a beast losing control. She couldn't fight back. All she could do was endure his overwhelming presence. After what felt like forever, Damon finally came to his senses and spoke in an even tone. I despise these gatherings. Good thing your scent helps balance it out, though it's still a bit too faint. Still trembling, Jinju cursed inwardly. Damn demon, treating me like some kind of tonic and still complaining about the flavor. Ignoring her anger, Damon tightened his hold on her wrist and ordered, we have business to attend to. Even the most patient woman has limits. She yanked her hand away from the lunatic and stormed back into the ballroom. The moment she stepped in, someone called her name. It was none other than Ober, the head of the Ober family. Ober smiled, extending his hand to Jinju. May I have the next dance? Before she could respond, Damon pulled her firmly into his arms, his voice laced with cold possessiveness. You have business with my partner? Ober had the audacity to flirt right in front of him. He laid it on thick, praising Jinju as if she were heaven's masterpiece. Damon's jealousy flared. He tightened his hold around her waist. No, he said coolly, she's with me tonight. Her heels are too high. Anywhere but my arms would be unsafe. Jinju cursed inwardly. Shut up. Nowhere is more dangerous than your arms. Ober chuckled, his tone teasing yet probing. Such care. Seems this young lady isn't just a dance partner. Perhaps she's your newest hand-picked prey? The word prey made Jinju's scalp prickle. Prey? He knows Damon's a demon. The young man's androgynous beauty contrasted his youth, already the leader of a rising faction with connections far too close to the demon himself. Damon's lips curved into a smile that never reached his eyes, his voice dripping with threat. Ober, order is the foundation of the city of desire. This city is like this ball. Everyone has their place. Dance your own steps properly and the night remains beautiful. But if someone steps into the wrong circle, or onto another's toes, they'll shatter completely. Ober laughed nervously, bowing slightly. Of course, everything operates under the structure you built. With your guidance, this city will never lose its way. Jinju fixed her gaze on Ober's face. An idea suddenly sparked. Ober, the boss behind Heiyu, a perfect material, delivered right to my hands. Damon looked down at her, tired of standing. The sudden gentleness caught Jinju off guard. She nodded instinctively. A little. Seeing their intimate whispering, Ober tactfully stepped aside. Though a cold smirk crossed his mind. Amber, your little sister's impressive. She actually caught the demon's eye. Not bad at all. While Damon was surrounded by guests, Jinju quietly slipped away toward the powder room. Outside the door, Damon's two bumbling subordinates stood guard. It's been half an hour, muttered Luby. Why hasn't she come out yet? Relax, Jed replied, giving him a nudge. That's how women are when they're dressing up. Back in the ballroom, Damon continued chatting politely, but an uneasy feeling gnawed at him. Suddenly he realized something was off. She's still not out, he asked under his breath. His boss. Who's come out of that room so far? The lady base, Chairman Joe, the actress Serena, and Ober. But Ober's still in the ballroom. Damn it. Damon's expression hardened. Chase that Ober. She's gone. Meanwhile, disguised as Ober, Shinju was running toward the far corner of the hotel. Think she found Heiyu. A man guarding the door blinked in surprise at the sight of her. Boss. Why are you here? I was just waiting for the Gust family's classified list. Before he could finish, a set of hurried footsteps echoed from behind. It was Luby and Jed who came chasing after her. Thinking fast, Shinju pulled out a small pink box and struck a flame. One of the men had just lit his cigarette. The next second she hurled the fire and the box to the ground. Boom! The explosion roared and a thick cloud of smoke swallowed the corridor. Luby and Jed were trapped in the haze, coughing and stumbling blindly. When the smoke finally cleared, Shinju was gone, completely vanished. Please. She's gone, their voices trembled in fear. Damon's fury erupted. The wineglass in his hand shattered into glittering shards. Useless fools. Find her. I want every corner turned upside down. Moments later, Luby and Jed returned, panic-stricken. Boss. We've searched the entire building 3 times, no sign of her. Maybe she changed disguise again? Damon didn't even lift his gaze. No, her target's Heiyu. She won't switch faces now. Turning sharply, he ordered Bolter, search the perimeter. If she's with Ober's Heiyu, they can't have gone far. Without another word, Bolter transformed into a black raven, wings cutting through the night as he began his sweep around the hotel. Meanwhile, Ober noticed Damon searching the ballroom. Amber's little sister. Where did she go? Is Delman looking for her? He actually cares that much about this girl. Interesting. His eyes flickered with mischief as he leaned toward his subordinate, whispering a few quiet words, clearly plotting something nasty. Elsewhere, Shinju was hiding with a man just outside the clock tower. Boss, weren't we supposed to get the list tonight? Damn, why are those 2 from the Gust family here? Did they spot us? And why are we at this creepy tower? Holy hell, it's so high up. For Shinju, the spot was perfect. Out of sight, away from prying ears. A good place to pull information about her brother. She decided to bait the hook first. With a serious tone, she said, Heiyu, there's been a change. Our informant's cover was blown, and now you're being watched too. The man rubbed his forehead, sighing. Guess I'll have to lay low in the safe house, but I still have a few things to wrap up. And what about your progress on the spy? Amber? She pressed. That top-tier phantom spy, Amber. Didn't I just meet him this month? What's there to worry about? Her heart clenched, her fists tightening as a tremor of emotion surged within her. Brother, you're alive. Fighting to stay composed, she asked calmly, where did you meet him? Boss, you don't know. Weren't you the one who... The man froze mid-sentence, instincts flaring. In one swift motion, he pulled a gun on her. You're not the boss. Who the hell are you? Realizing her disguise was blown, Shinju tore off the human skin mask in one swift motion. Raising an eyebrow, she sneered, "Heiyu, do you remember me?" Heiyu froze, nearly dropping his gun. "Your Amber's sister. Shinju? Where's my brother?" she demanded. As Heiyu hesitated, torn between loyalty and fear, a flicker of light caught Shinju's eye from the rooftop opposite. "Sniper," aiming at Heiyu. Before she could shout a warning, the bullet screamed through the air, striking Heiyu square in the chest. It tore through his body and hurtled straight toward Shinju. She twisted aside, but her heel slipped. In the next instant, she plunged from the edge of the clock tower. "No," her heart cried out, burning with unwillingness. "I've come this far. I can't die now. Someone save me." Suddenly, petals filled the sky, swirling under a strange magic that formed into a radiant beam of light. The light caught her mid-fall, halting her descent. As the glow faded, Damon's face came into view, lips curved with that familiar, mocking smile. "Still alive, little spy," but right back into the demon's hands. When they landed, Damon held her tightly in his arms. Shinju froze, then shoved him away with all her strength. Damon, unfazed, leaned forward, worry flickering across his face. "You're hurt. Let me see." Damon stepped forward to check the wound on Shinju's shoulder, but the moment his hand neared her, she flinched back, over a full meter, as if burned. Without hesitation, he grabbed the torn fabric from her shoulder. Crimson energy coiled around his fingertips, and within a second the jagged wound sealed itself completely. "Still so obsessed with your prey?" Shinju turned away, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Is that how you talk to the one who just saved your life?" Damon's voice dropped lower, a trace of quiet disappointment beneath it. "Following me everywhere. Don't tell me you actually care about me," she shot back, half mocking. He met her gaze, eyes frighteningly sincere. "And no matter what happens, I'll be by your side. Because I truly worry about you, and I don't want you to get hurt." With that, he gently held her ankle, inspecting the sprain with careful precision. Shinju jerked her foot away, eyes wary. But Damon didn't stop. He slowly slipped off her shoe, his voice soft, like a feather brushing her ear. "Trust me that I'll protect you." The words made her heartbeat stumble. It had been a very long time since anyone had said "I'll protect you" to her. Since childhood, her brother had taught her, "If you want to survive, rely on yourself. Shinju, you must learn to solve everything alone. Tears, they're useless to people like us. To be noticed, to be protected, those were luxuries she was never meant to have." She never imagined that one day she would feel such warmth from a cold-blooded demon. By reason she should hate him. And yet, the way he tended to her, so careful, so gentle, she knew he was a demon. But still, a faint warmth bloomed quietly in her chest. Am I being tempted by the demon? Suddenly, a strange, sweet fragrance filled the air. Damon's pupils shrank sharply. Like a predator spotting prey, he lunged forward, slamming Shinju to the ground. His breath grew rough and feverish as he inhaled the scent along her neck and shoulder. Wild, desperate, as if that aroma were a deadly drug. "What are you doing? Let me go." Shinju struggled with all her strength. But his power was overwhelming. Damon had completely lost control. Unsatisfied with the faint scent from her neck, he tore open the fabric over her chest, pressing his face against the softness beneath. Shame and fury flooded through Shinju all at once. She should have known he was, after all, a dangerous demon. Gathering every ounce of strength, she swung her hand and slapped him hard across the face. Smack. The sharp sound snapped Damon back to his senses. He turned, and the sight before him made his chest tighten painfully. Shinju's collar hung open, her clothes disheveled, eyes rimmed with red, but she bit her lip, refusing to cry. That trembling look, caught between rage and tears, twisted something deep inside him more than any scream could. In a rush, Damon stripped off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. Watching her curl into herself, trembling, his throat tightened. He couldn't find a single word to say. The violent haze had vanished, leaving only chaos and guilt in its wake. "What do I do now, Miss Shinju?" he thought bitterly. "I've truly become interested in you. Let me break through that armor of yours and touch the fragile heart hidden within, your true glimmering pearl." To cheer Shinju up, the ever-arrogant demon did something unthinkable. He offered to take her shopping. Yet Shinju was still trapped in the chaos left by Black Jade's death. Desperate to gather new intel and restart her investigation, Damon's sudden apology and invitation to accompany her cast a suspicious haze over the entire outing from the very beginning. As a spy, Shinju knew that keeping a low profile was the key to survival. To her, Damon's charm, wealth, and overbearing attentiveness were nothing but trouble magnets. No one shows kindness without reason, she warned herself. This has to be a test. When they stopped by a cosmetics shop, Damon said softly, I want to find a shade that highlights your unique charm. The store clerk's eyes sparkled with envy. How lucky, she thought, to have such a sweet-talking boyfriend. But Shinju's scalp tingled instantly. She denied their couple relationship with every fiber of her being. Yet on the surface, she could only maintain the calm endurance of a spy. Damon didn't say a word. He simply flashed his wealth and bought every product in the store. The tug-of-war between them never stopped. Shinju suddenly threw out a line. Keep 1 meter away. And unbelievably, Damon, the high and mighty demon, actually obeyed and stepped back. As they continued strolling, Shinju's eyes suddenly froze on the corner of the shop's signboard. Hidden there was a symbol used by underground information dealers. Without revealing anything, she used the excuse of ordering a cake, and mouthed a quick message to the shop clerk, requesting Black Jade's whereabouts for the past month. The clerk mouthed back just as swiftly, we'll deliver it within 3 days. Please write the address here. The intel will be hidden inside the cake. Be careful. Shinju grumbled inwardly. Lucky she actually found an intel dealer this fast. Being stuck with this demon was torture, but at least she gained something. With the task just completed, her gaze drifted uncontrollably toward the strawberry parfait in the display case. Seeing this, the shop clerk smiled and asked, would you two like the couple's set? No need. Shinju refused without even thinking. But Damon had already spoken, ordering a large strawberry parfait. With no choice, Shinju ordered a cup of black coffee. When the dishes arrived, Damon pushed the parfait toward her. This is for you. Shinju froze. How did he know she loved this? They hadn't even touched. There was no way he could read her mind. A strange ripple stirred in her chest. She scooped a spoonful. The sweet, delicate flavor melted on her tongue, unexpectedly pulling up memories from her childhood. She once secretly fantasized about living like an ordinary girl, going to a dessert shop with someone she liked. Yet she never imagined that the one sitting beside her now would be this demon. Not good. Damon's voice cut through her thoughts and Shinju snapped back to reality. Only then did she realize every single one of her reactions had been caught by his eyes. She felt a bit uncomfortable, turned her head away annoyed and avoided his gaze. Her eyes drifted over the star jar beside her. The corner of her lips lifted slightly, then quickly dimmed with a hint of melancholy. Damon instantly caught that tiny shift in her expression. He lifted the star jar to her ear, his voice low and velvety. Humans write their wishes on stars, right? If Miss Shinju is too shy to say hers out loud, you can write it in here and give it to me. Shinju knew too well. This gentleness was sugar-coated. Beneath it hid the scheme to capture her desires and claim her soul. She lifted her gaze toward Damon, wanting to see just how far this demon planned to push his temptation. Shinju had long seen through it. The so-called date was nothing more than Damon's test. So she decided to play along and act her part to the very end. What she didn't know was that Ober had already sent people to follow them in secret. When the secretly taken photos were placed in front of him, Ober stared at them, a cunning smile curling at his lips. He had finally found Damon's weakness. This girl might just be the key to solving everything. He immediately ordered his men to uncover the truth about Shinju's relationship with Damon. After wandering all day, Shinju was completely exhausted. Yet lying in bed, she couldn't fall asleep. Scenes from earlier replayed endlessly in her mind. In the end, she chose not to run yet. The very least, she needed Black Jade's whereabouts. Just when she finally drifted into sleep, danger was already creeping closer in the darkness. Damon slipped quietly into the room, moving without a sound. He studied the girl's sleeping face, a trace of sentimentality, something only humans possessed, stirring within him. Such a perfect chance, and she hadn't even tried to escape. At least that saved him the trouble of hunting her down again. Still, there were far too many mysteries surrounding her. First, that cursed bond of shared fate. If she was injured, he would suffer as well. Second, her true purpose for sneaking into the basement the night they first met. And then there was this. After he healed her with his touch, her scent had grown stronger. Was that a sign she enjoyed being touched by him? Searching for answers, Damon couldn't help himself. He took her ankle and pressed a soft kiss against it. Come now, Miss Shinju, he murmured silently, let me find the way to understand you. You need to grow more fragrant. Let desire fill your body, only then will you satisfy my palate. At that moment, Shinju let out a faint murmur in her sleep. Damon decided to go all the way. His fingertip tapped lightly against her forehead. In the next instant, he dragged her straight into the dreamscape he had carefully woven. Crimson silks, like burning veins of blood, wrapped her tightly within the dense darkness of night. A man's breath brushed past her neck, scorching enough to make her fingers tremble. The hands that struggled to push him away were bound even tighter by the red silks. Fear surged like a tide and swept her along, yet a strange tingling sensation lingered all the same. It spread slowly from where their skin touched. Even as she tried to break free, a trace of clarity she refused to admit surfaced within her. Her body trembled, her breathing turned rapid. Fear and an unfamiliar pleasure intertwined in her heart. Pearl jolted awake from an absurd dream. The one in that dream was none other than the demon she feared so deeply. An experience she couldn't tell was a nightmare or a sensual dream. Left her engulfed in confusion and shame. Her mind echoed with a single doubt. Did I harbor improper feelings for him? At breakfast, Pearl deliberately avoided Damon, yet in her fluster she left her coffee behind. At that very moment, Damon's unhurried voice sounded. "Miss Pearl, you forgot your coffee." Pearl turned back, forcing herself to remain calm. She reached out to take it, and the instant their fingertips touched, a jolt of tingling electricity shot through her entire body. She hastily snatched the coffee from Damon's hand. Unexpectedly, he leaned closer, lifting a hand to rest against her forehead. "Your face is so red.do, you have a fever." The words made Pearl tense instantly, terrified that her dream might be seen through by Damon's mind-reading abilities. In her panic, she ended up splashing the scalding coffee straight onto Damon's handsome face. She then fled the scene in utter panic, sprinting away as if running a 100-meter dash. Damon was left standing there, frozen in place, his face filled with shock. For the entire day, Pearl tried every possible way to avoid him. That was until the cake hiding the intelligence arrived right on schedule. She had planned to return to her room alone, quietly cut open the cake and retrieve the information. But Damon suddenly suggested that they share the dessert together. She knew full well his proposal was most likely intentional, yet refusing outright would only make her seem suspicious. Left with no better option, Pearl forced herself to agree. As the knife and fork hovered, the hidden intel lay just inches away. Meanwhile, the man beside her watched with a gaze so deep it was impossible to read. Pearl pretended to calmly enjoy the cake, while in truth, every bite was a careful, covert search. She still hadn't found the crucial piece when Damon's low voice suddenly broke the silence. "I've heard that some top-tier intelligence agents like to hide information inside cakes. Damn it, this bastard guessed it down to the last detail." Pearl's eyes flickered. She took a big bite of cake and held it out to him. "Then why don't you taste this piece and see if it hides any secrets?" She tried to dispel his suspicion by feeding him proactively, never expecting Damon to completely ignore common sense. Without a word, he grabbed her wrist and leaned down, eating the cake straight from her hand. His warm breath brushed across her fingertips, and he deliberately drew out his words, teasing so sweet. Those two words struck Pearl like a thunderclap. The intimate, ambiguous images from the night before flooded her mind like a runaway reel. She fought hard to suppress the tremor in her chest and barely managed to steady herself, only to realize the cake was down to its very last small piece. The intelligence had to be hidden right there. Pearl immediately spoke up. "I really like this flavor. Can I keep what's left?" Damon agreed readily, but what he said next sent her into instant panic. "I'll feed you." He leaned in, biting into the strawberry that very likely concealed the intelligence. Pearl froze, completely dumbfounded. "Think, now." She was just about to snatch it away, when Damon's magic bound her tightly, leaving her unable to move. His face drew closer and closer, warm breath brushing against her cheek. For the intelligence, she'd go all in. She squeezed her eyes shut and snapped forward, biting down on the tip of the strawberry, then used the momentum to strike Damon hard under the chin. Seizing the instant he froze in surprise, Pearl broke free and bolted at full sprint. Damon watched her flustered yet lightning-fast retreat and let out a low chuckle, amusement flickering in his eyes. That speed, impressive. Having successfully escaped, Pearl indeed retrieved the intelligence hidden inside the strawberry. Following the clues, she managed to narrow down several places her brother might have stayed. The gains of the day were enormous, and exhausted at last, she could finally sleep in peace. Yet the moment she closed her eyes, last night's humiliating dream, along with Damon's dangerously suggestive behavior from today, kept replaying in her mind. A shiver ran through her. She was terrified the demon might invade her dreams again. Fighting the drowsiness, Pearl got up, hoping to distract herself with something else. Just then, soft, furtive footsteps sounded outside the door. Quick-witted, she immediately pretended to be asleep. Sure enough, Damon slipped in silently, his gaze burning as it lingered on her. The next second, he bent down and lifted her into his arms. Damon carefully set Pearl back onto the bed, then turned and left, the sharp-tongued yet soft-hearted demon, claiming it was for the sake of his magic, when in truth he simply couldn't bear to see her worn down by sleepless nights. Early the next morning, Pearl rushed into the living room holding a snow-capped mountain poster, her eyes shining brightly. Look, the Eye of the Snow Peaks is just north of the City of Desire. The two goofball brothers exchanged glances, saying they had just received tickets for a newly launched luxury train, with that exact destination. Before they could finish, Poulter showed several tickets. You mean the VIP passes sent by Opal? Rumor had it this was a brand new luxury train. A palace on rails. Seizing the chance, Pearl urged everyone to go together. But the brothers immediately grew wary, bluntly saying it might be one of Opal's schemes, and that the boss would definitely refuse. The words instantly doused Pearl's excitement. Just as disappointment settled in, Damon's deep voice suddenly sounded, "Going together is fine, but you'll need this." He handed her an exquisitely crafted gift box. Pearl opened it with trembling hands. Inside lay a pearl choker. A small gift made just for you. Put it on and we'll take the luxury train to the hot springs. Damon's tone was half coaxing, half coercive. His fingers brushed along her neck. "It really suits you." The choker fit too tightly. Pearl reached up to adjust it, but her wrist was caught in his grip. "Don't move." His thumb traced the clasp, his voice low, almost a sigh. "The leather beneath the velvet will soften with your body heat." As for the clasp, he gave a soft chuckle. "Only I can undo it. But don't worry, it will slowly mold to you like a second skin." Back in her room, Pearl examined the choker again and again. There was no camera, no tracker. Just as Damon said, the clasp wouldn't open. Night deepened and drowsiness crept in. She decided to set her doubts aside. They were leaving tomorrow, and she couldn't afford to chase clues with dark circles under her eyes. What she didn't know was that she had already fallen into the web Damon had carefully laid. And this time there would be no escape. Late at night, Damon was caught by Bolt. Bolt bluntly questioned whether Damon had agreed to board the luxury train sent by Opal because of Pearl. Instead of answering directly, Damon asked whether Bolt had checked the passenger list. Red flames ignited around him, illuminating a spell book. Damon admitted that one of his major clients was aboard the train, and that the real purpose of the trip was to reclaim a soul whose contract had expired. The brand new luxury train, Gemstone, sped along the rails. It was the latest creation of Mr. Ling, the architect of mobile palaces, famed for its speed and extravagance. The cars even featured mascots distributing commemorative gifts. The moment Pearl stepped onto the train, she fell into a brief daze, still seemingly troubled by last night's dream. Damon promptly activated a VIP-exclusive journey for the group. The train's luxury exceeded all expectations, featuring a panoramic dining car where the chef crafted meals based on regional specialties along the route. The bedroom suites combined the privacy of a mobile palace with high-level security. Premium bedding, popular fragrances, and luxury skincare products were provided down to the finest detail. Damon let out a low chuckle at the sight of Pearl's wide-eyed stare. It was her first time on a train like this. Pearl's thoughts, however, drifted back to the past. In her memories, her brother had taught her the first lesson of being a spy: conceal your trail and switch transportation frequently during long missions. Even the code for returning home had to remain strictly confidential. Personal dining preferences, coffee without sugar, stew without cheese, were also part of that shared identity code. "What are you smiling at?" A warm breath suddenly brushed her ear. Damon's fingers slipped through her hair. Pearl instinctively stepped back, the tips of her ears burning red. "The view outside is nice. I got distracted." The scene did not escape the notice of the two dim-witted brothers. They noticed that their boss looked unusually displeased. Privately, they speculated it had something to do with scent. After all, Damon possessed the ability to sense special odors, and Pearl's was the only one that truly caught his attention. Pearl tried to probe the uniqueness of this ability, but the two dim-witted brothers could only shrug helplessly. Ever since they acknowledged him as their boss, he had always been extremely picky about his contract partners. Just selective eating, they supposed. Before they could finish, Damon's shout crashed down on them. "Luby, Jetty." Both of them snapped to attention instantly. "I have important business to attend to later. Keep an eye on her." With that, Damon turned and disappeared down the corridor of the carriage. At midnight, Damon arrived at the agreed carriage, yet failed to catch the target's scent. He frowned inwardly. By all logic, the other party's carriage shouldn't have been this far away. He turned and moved off to investigate. Meanwhile, Luby noticed two suspicious figures lurking outside the train window, and took the initiative to check it out, disappearing for a full 2 hours. Feeling hungry, Pearl caught Jetty's attention that he decided to head to the dining car for food, agreeing to knock 3 times on the door as a signal when he returned. After Jetty left, Pearl was alone in the room. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed. Instantly, she went on high alert. Immediately after, a person in a pink bear mascot costume burst into the room. Claiming to be a train staff member, they said they were here to hand out souvenirs. Just as Pearl took the gift box, the other party suddenly attacked. The box transformed into a blade and slashed straight at her.